Hey my demigod, what's going on? It's Thirteenth Olympian, and today for you guys, I'm going to be starting a tips and tricks video, or not video, but I guess tips and tricks playlist. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of the word here for a second. Based off of the game of Smite, because I have noticed that there's a lot of beginners, and actually even a lot of veteran players that don't seem to know how to play the game at all, or just they don't have a basic understanding of the game. I mean, they're good at the game, but they don't have that fundamental ability that everyone else that pretty much watches some beginning videos kind of has. So this first video will basically just be a beginner's guide. However, if you are a veteran player, you probably can learn a few things off of this, especially some of these I'm going to talk about. So, but don't worry, these are going to be just very basic things. They're not going to be super in depth. So you'll just be getting just the tip. Anyways, guys, hopefully the tips shared today for you guys will help you understand and take your first step into the battleground of the gods. Anyways, guys, so for this video, I'll be sharing a few tips, but these are still some tricks and tips that anyone can learn from. So basically, the tips are how to lane, how to ward, how to call out, how to use a map, and how to figure out what role you want to play. And of course, this video is intended for a new audience, and there's a lot of details that I did not have the time to cover in this video. So if there are any other veteran players watching this video, I would also like to ask you guys if you could please share some of your holy Smite wisdom to the rest of the community. That way, it's not just me giving my own personal opinions and my tips, it's everyone sharing with the community. So other than that, guys, let's get started. Alright, so basically in the beginning of every game, unless you're playing a special game mode, everyone will be low level, whether it be level 1, level 3, I also said level 2 there. Basically, when you're starting out in the game, you're going to want to focus the minions. Of course, after you're done getting your buffs with your jungler, and when you're done farming the jungle with your jungler. When you get into lane, focus the minions, okay? It doesn't matter what guide you're going to be playing, you're going to need to focus those minions. Because if you go ahead and try to focus your opponent, even if he is still, let's say, below quarter of his health, below half of his health, and his wave is still in the lane, and you have not cleared your wave, you will die. Okay, it's just a big mistake a lot of beginning players do. Even I do it sometimes, because I get greedy, and I want to get that kill, that first blood, and yet my opponent's minions are still firing their arrows at me. They're coming at me with their swords, because the melee minions and of course the ranged minions. Ranged minions do a lot of damage, and the melee minions they have a lot of health. And so if you try to get your opponent early game, you're not gonna get it, okay? Even if they're low, there's a slight chance you will, but even if you kill him, you will probably also die, because it's still damage he's gonna be doing to you, and of course it's damage that those minions will be doing to you. So just stay away from that, okay? Don't get too greedy in the early game. Once you're in the late game and you have your full build, you can of course try to get a little bit more greedy. But in the early game, play pretty safe. Another thing that I see among beginners is rushing tower a little too early. In the late game, pushing towers and getting towers is a really easy thing to do because, of course, like I said, you have your full build going, you can get split pushes with your team. But if you try to push it early game, even if your opponent is dead and you have your wave up there, you still probably take a lot of damage from when you and your opponent were fighting, if that was happening. And there's a high risk that you will get a gank from your opponent's jungler if they're in the jungler you're trying to push. And so just keep in mind, don't push the tower, don't rush the tower too early in the game. It'll be a huge mistake, and if you do end up dying, it'll just give an opportunity for your opponent to farm the lane, farm the jungle with their jungler, or even push another lane. And that is not something that you need happening in the early game, because in early games when you're most vulnerable, because actually everyone is most vulnerable, but once you make that first mistake, you will pretty much guaranteed a Kraken up your ass, not even kidding. Even if you're not playing against a Poseidon, Kraken will somehow come out of the ground and get you in the ass. But all in all, just play it safe in the early game, play it safe in the lane for the beginners, and you pretty much will be fine. Alright, so these next three topics pretty much go hand in hand because all pretty much deal with the map and knowing where your opponents are. This is how to ward, how to call out the positions, and how to use the map, because using a map is something a lot of people do not do. So basically, you will hear this from a lot of people. Even some beginner players will even understand this, but warding is pretty much key in this game. Okay, wards will give you extra sight into areas that you're not in, and they can be really big game changers because it will let you see ganks that are coming in. And as for example, your ally forgets to say enemy missing middle, enemy missing right, enemy missing wherever, right? And you have those wards up, you can have time to get out of there because the wards will pick up that opponent. And so right on the screen, I'll have a picture of good places that you basically will want to ward. These are really basic places. Of course, later on in the game, you're going to have to be warding the Gold Fury, Fire Giant, but that's once you're sure your opponents can start getting that. But early game, the areas that I marked with the red dot, those are pretty safe areas to start ganking in early game. Now, next thing I would like to talk about is calling out when enemies missing, just using the VGS in Smite. Using the VGS will allow you to notify your team when there's an enemy missing or when there's an impending gank. Of course, you can use curse if you would like, but there's some people that elect not to use curse, or there's people that do not have mics and stuff like that. And so using curse may not always be the most viable thing. So of course, learning how to use the VGS will help you drastically. Okay, even spending a few minutes at the beginning of the game to learn some of the basic, I guess you can say, commands. Those will help you a lot. Like if you can say stuff like enemy missing, attack, gank, retreat, something like that, that'll definitely help your team out a lot. And another thing that I like to talk about is using the minimap, okay? Hi-Rez did just put the minimap there just to annoy you, okay? I know it covers up some area on the screen, but they didn't put that there just to annoy you. It's there so you can use it. Like, I've seen a lot of people, not I've seen a lot of people, but I can kind of assume people don't use their maps just because there's like let's say a blip that comes off of a ward, right? And they don't see that blip and they don't see that on the map and they just get ganked hardcore. And it's like, it was on the map, dude. We told you retreat. Why aren't you doing anything? And so it just makes your team it just ticks your team off a little bit when you don't use the map. So using the map is extremely, you need to be able to use the map, okay? It may be something super simple, but it's going to make a big deal later on, especially when you couple it with wards and being able to call out when an enemy's missing using the VGS. Using the map will definitely help you out later on in the game. Okay, so my next and final section is really for the people who are actually serious about playing the game of Smite. And that, when I mean serious, I mean serious about being competitive. Maybe you can just be serious about playing casual, but you are serious about playing Smite. So this next little section will help you be a better player, but not just a better player specifically, but a better player in a certain role. Okay, so there's 5 roles in the game. There's ADC, which stands for damage carry. Those are the people on the team that do like the most amount of damage. Most of the time anyways, like they can get a lot of damage out at once. There's support that supports the ADC in the dual lane. This is also, it might not seem like a big role, but it is a big role because it helps not help your opponent, but it helps your ADC be able to just be your ADC. It helps your ADC not have to build tanky. It helps your ADC not to have to worry about all these ganks. Your support is supposed to help your ADC, not only ADC, your entire team. So support may not seem like a big role to a lot of people, but it definitely is. I will tell you guys that much. There's of course then the mid laner, who is the person in the mid lane. This is most of the time the mage, and then there's the solo laner, which is a lot of the times a warrior. I personally play solo lane because I love the solo lane. You can honestly play anything you want in the solo lane as long as you're good at it. But I will say, once you get to competitives, you start playing like, I don't know, Ymir in the solo lane, people will start questioning your mental state of mind. And then last but not least, there's a jungler, which honestly, my opinion, is the hardest position to play because the jungler has to go from both sides of the jungle, take buffs, take camps, make sure there's ganking going on. And I think the jungler is a really hard position to play. I used to like playing jungler, to be completely honest, but then I kind of fell out of it because I started falling into the solo lane more. But jungler is a really hard position to play, and if you're really good at jungler, props to you. But anyway, so all these positions honestly are really, really important. It's never a bad thing, like I said, to be good at other roles too. Like, I'm good at solo lane, ADC, and jungler. But of course, honestly, if you're going to be playing competitive, you're also going to want to have at least a few support gods, a few guardians in that little pool of gods you can play. Because honestly, if you're at the very bottom of the whole ranking, most of the time you're going to be playing support. So you always want to have at least a few good guardians that you can play. So like I said, personally I play solo lane, but when I play ranked, like I said, I play ADC or jungler. It just makes me more flexible to the roles that are left. So for example, if solo lane's gone, then I guess I can always play ADC, right? And if ADC's gone, I can always play jungler. But if, let's say I was only good at solo lane and someone took solo lane, I can't really play anything else. Like, if I tried to play anything else, I would be really bad at those roles, and that's not something you want to be. You want to be good at every single role, but you want to be better at a certain amount of roles. That way, you're not always like being, I don't know how to explain it, but you just don't want to be able to be the dead weight on your team. Basically, you don't want to be the guy that, yeah, you can play all the roles just decently, but then of course there's someone you're playing against that can play it extremely well. So you want to be able to at least play each of the roles pretty well, but of course you want to be able to pick out one role that fits you the best, whether it be ADC support, mid laner, solo lane, or jungler. Are all important, and they're all roles that everyone should be playing. But go ahead, if you want to be a good player, pick out the role that is best for you. Okay, guys? So And this is, of course, not of course, but this is my final tip for you guys. So anyways, in conclusion, I hope you guys learned a little bit out of this. Hope this helps you guys get a little more better. What am I talking about? Hope this helps you guys get better at the game, because I know for a lot of new players, this game can be challenging, especially if you're coming from another MOBA, or if you haven't even played a MOBA at all. Playing this game can be a little bit challenging, so I hope these tips helped you guys become better players, especially for the beginners. And also, I want to say thank you guys for watching this. And if you did enjoy this video, I hope you guys stay tuned for the rest of my tips and tricks videos, and of course, stay tuned to my channel. If you want to, like I said, stay tuned with the tips and tricks videos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because that helps me a lot. And yeah, other than that, I will see you all next time. Peace.